As the years roll on by, the nation's favourite plumber has been dropped into a few different situations. Saving a princess, Doki Doki Panic, wearing animal skin, riding dinosaurs, and moving into a whole new dimension with jumping into paintings, false imprisonment, Space 2, wearing new animal skin. So it's natural with the huge gaping differences between his 2D and 3D adventures to compare the two and see which version of Mario comes out on top. It's his 3D ones, especially recently. I mean, okay, let's try and look at this in an unbiased vacuum. 2D Mario is where it all began, from the beginnings of Donkey Kong 1983 up until Super Mario Run. This series has remained ever eternal and consistent, sometimes to a fault. But you go back to the original quote-unquote trilogy on NES and get reminded of just how groundbreaking this series was. And even today, looking back at the original Super Mario Bros. From 1985, it's insane how they fit it all onto a 40 kilobyte cartridge. And then it's even more remarkable how they fit stuff like Super Mario Odyssey onto an even smaller cartridge. But yeah, this isn't about 3D yet. Let's just do this the simple way. Go over most of the mainline 2D Mario games, go over most of the 3D mainline Mario games, give an overview of them all, make them go head to head, and come up with a verdict at the end. I haven't played every Mario game, which is... Wow, that's actually really bad of me. Personal memo. Super Mario Marathon. So bear that in mind and consider this more of a historical analysis. Yes, the original NES trilogy is so old to me that I consider discussing it historical analysis. And every time I bring something like this up, I hope to God someone out there goes through an existential crisis realizing how young people like me are getting. Anyways, Super Mario Bros, Super Mario Bros for Lost Levels, Super Mario Bros 2, and Super Mario Bros 3. I think these games, but especially the original and 3, showcase the remarkable progress from early NES games to later NES games. I mean, think about it. Super Mario Bros, one start screen, graphics which are now iconic, but in retrospect... yeah, about 4 different level themes. 3, in comparison, has a world map. It has better graphics on the same 8-bit system. This is some serious shit for an NES game. But it does beg the question, what happened with 2 and Lost Levels? Oh my f***ing god, it's time for my favourite segment! I call this one, you're at a bar and the person you're talking to is a little bit tipsy but is trying to impress you with all the fun facts they've accumulated over the years. Okay, so did you know that Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels is actually the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2. Please marry me. To keep it brief, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels is essentially Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, a much more direct sequel compared to the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2. And because you're obviously just dying to know, the American and European version of Super Mario Bros. 2 is actually a reskinned Japanese game called Doki Doki Panic, made entirely to promote the Dream Factory 87 event. Nintendo, realizing how difficult the Japanese SMB2 was, decided to reskin the characters in Doki Doki Panic into Mario, Luigi, Peach and Toad, which created some of the gameplay traits we now attribute to the two latter characters. Peach's floating is from Lena and Toad's fast speed was gained from Papa. I think this knowledge is more common nowadays, especially in gaming spaces. Hell, you yourself might even know it, but it's just a really cool piece of Mario trivia to me, and I am sure as hell not passing up the opportunity to share it. And it also technically means that there's 4 Super Mario Bros. Games. Last orders just went out. There's actually 5 Super Mario Bros. Games. Super Mario World, the direct sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3, which is actually why it's known as Super Mario Bros. 4 in Japan. It's the true next evolution in Mario platformers. This game has everything. It's peak 2D Mario to most. Despite the subtitle change outside of Japan, it fulfills everything a true sequel should do when compared to 3. Enhances the gameplay, doesn't drop the enhancements that 3 introduced, and is generally an upgrade to the first 3.5 games. The 16-bit Mario art style is iconic. It's arguably peak retro Mario unless you're a freak like me who really enjoys low poly 3D models. It really feels like we're moving forwards with the series here, stride after stride. It's Nintendo's staple and only getting better and better. So, I wonder what awaits Mario next. Mario? Mario? No, not you. Mario? God damn it, where is Mario? We got nothing! Well, when I say nothing, I'm excluding the Super Mario Land games, Game Boy titles that would later spin off into Wario Land games, and the Advance series that ported the home console 2D Mario titles to Game Boy Advance. So, yeah. nothing. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island is not a sequel to Super Mario World, it's the first Yoshi game. So that was that until 2006, which means it's finally time to rip the band-aid off and start talking about 3D. Oh, thank fucking God. It's one small step for Mario, but one giant leap for Nintendo's developers, who will be working in a three-dimensional environment for basically the first time. And a lot is riding on this particular Mario game. Set to launch day and date with the N64, Nintendo really need to pull something out of the bag here for this game to succeed. Oh, right. It's Super Mario 64. Can I even contribute anything to the conversation about Super Mario 64 at this point? Like, why am I even here? Super Mario 64 was peak, iconic, and a staple of 3D gaming. It stunned a generation in the 90s with its absolutely jaw-dropping level design. I don't think it's unfair to describe 64 as the true birth of 3D platformers. Hell, I think it would be unfair to describe it as anything but. There is just one teensy, weensy, tiny problem with 64 that I want to bite my tongue on, but I know I need to speak my mind. This game aged horribly. It's still good. No amount of time, age, or advancement in the genre can erase this genius level design. But you try playing with these controls today, and it's just... Super Mario Bros. 1985, for me, thanks to its tight controls and everlasting gameplay, hasn't aged at all. Well, I mean, of course, in some aspects it has aged, but playing it today is just like playing it in 85. It still holds up. Now, compare playing 64 to playing Odyssey. I think this might be the definition of whiplash. Maybe part of that was because I'm not playing with an N64 controller. The footage you're seeing is straight from everyone's favourite compilation game, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, but that's a conversation for another day. The N64 controller was supposedly designed around Super Mario 64, which, I mean, when you look at it like this, it makes sense. And maybe this will entice old heads to make a 20-tweet thread trying to call me out on my transgressions against the N64 era, but I really do think this game would have hugely benefited from more modern camera controls, a second analog stick. And they had the perfect opportunity to do that in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, but they just didn't. For fuck's sake, I'm getting distracted. Super Mario Sunshine? Let me be real, I haven't played Super Mario Sunshine before. My general impression from looking at criticism online and from my own limited playing experience is it's okay, it just doesn't live up to 64. Flood is cool, and that's about all the analysis that I personally can offer. And in my defense, I think that's okay. Why should I pretend to know about a game I've never really truly played before and try and offer half-hearted analysis on that when I could instead ramble on about my two favourite games for about 5 minutes? Oh hey! Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. Since when did you get here? One of the greatest video games of all time and my favourite video game of all time. Super Mario Galaxy is quite frankly a masterclass in every aspect of creating a video game. And Galaxy 2 is slightly objectively worse, but I played it first, so that makes it better, you have to believe me. Galaxy 1 is the epitome of a cinematic Mario experience. It's got big set pieces that feel so far beyond anything we've seen Nintendo do before. The movement, spinning mechanic, planet walking, enemies, levels should and probably are shown in game design classes as a what to do tutorial. And while I don't personally think the story is as in-depth as everyone says it is, a lot of it is locked behind the Rosalina rooms, and even then it's not heaps and heaps of lore. It's certainly more than what we usually get, and I'm very happy about that. But other than that, Galaxy is just peak. It really is. So surely Galaxy 2 is miles worse. Galaxy 2 is basically an encore of Galaxy 1, and that tracks. Considering at a base level it's an expansion that got way too out of hand. It would explain the lack of story, simpler world map, higher focus on levels and gameplay as opposed to lore. Not only does it come down to which Galaxy you played first, but it also comes down to if you like the Mario story enough to look past the fact that Galaxy 2 has the exclusive custodial rights to Yoshi. Not even in a sarcastic way, it kind of boils down to it. Maybe a Galaxy 2 that focuses more on progressing the original story with Rosalina instead of just rehashing the Galaxy 1 campaign would have been better, but I'm beyond satisfied with what we got here, even if it's just more of the same. All the same mechanics I loved, new mechanics I love more. 3D Mario is truly peaking. I think I trust him enough to leave him home alone for a little bit, so I can shift my focus onto, oh my fucking god. New Super Mario Bros. The series. I have done nearly an hour's worth of analysis and review on this series. If there's any, and I mean any set of games in this whirlwind tour that I can handle, it's this one. But let's try and keep things brief. Mario made his return to the second dimension in 2006 as part of an almost relaunch for the Nintendo DS. The introduction of a DS Lite, a brand new Mario game after the 64 DS remake, it was a big deal, especially for Mario. And although it's been kind of obscured by the following sequels, this was actually an amazing return to form. The hybrid 2D or 2.5D art style was very pretty. Mario was controlling well enough. And ultimately, at the time, it was really nice to be reintroduced to 2D Mario. It's been too long.
And then they made a sequel.
New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Another return to form for 2D Mario as the series returns to home consoles. A lot of people may view this as the downfall, and there's a few reasons for that, but this was honestly fine. It's incredibly similar to New Super Mario Bros, just in 480p and now fully 2.5D, using 3D models with a fixed 2D perspective. But for a game with the subtitle just being the new console's name, this all makes sense in my mind. Like if they'd called it New Super Mario Bros 2, now that would have been bad, but this is fine.
And then they made a sequel.
New Super Mario Bros 2 was bad. Imagine if, instead of taking a bold new direction for New Super Mario Bros, we essentially rolled New Super Mario Bros DS and New Super Mario Bros Wii into one game, added a few more coins around the place, and called it a night. Like, everything here just feels reused, and that sucks because it's still tight platforming fun. The bosses, the level design, world theming are all the same, and the new stuff like coin focus, new power-ups, they just fall flat. A true case of wasted potential, which they kind of all shoved into New Super Mario Bros. U eventually.
And then they made a sequel. Damn it, I was late!
New Super Mario Bros. U is our final stop. Thank God. And what sucks here isn't the total reuse of all the usual tropes, because a lot are tossed aside. A lot by New Super Mario Bros. Standards, obviously. We're not in the Mushroom Kingdom anymore, because we're in a total lookalike, but it's different. There's a connecting world map, there's new baby Yoshis, but from my experience with this game overall, I thought Nintendo actually gave this one their all. A really strange time to do it, but now looking back, and don't kill me for this, hear me out, I find it kind of funny that you can draw parallels between the Super Mario Bros. And New Super Mario Bros. Games. U is like Super Mario Bros. 4, otherwise known as, say it with me now, a fully connected world map for the first time, Yoshi's. This is all I thought of.
But that's it. I'm done discussing New Super Mario Bros. It's over. It's just gone on for too long, you know what I mean? Now to comically turn my head and scream like a little girl at the sight of New Super Luigi U! Much better.
Super Mario 3D World was interesting. Super Mario 3D World was interesting because it was more traditional Mario, but in 3D? I know this is a completely foreign concept. You've just gotta try and stick with me here. Before, 3D Mario games have been at least a little more open compared to 2D. That was sort of the expected gameplay. You get dropped into a world and have to progress towards collecting a star, shine, another star, etc, etc, etc. But in 3D World, the goal is the flagpole again? It's strange, but it's also not that big of a deal. Sure, it's something different, but not a huge deal, unlike the return of playable Luigi, Peach, and Toad. This is what I was talking about ages ago, the Doki Doki Panic abilities. They carried over, my stupid trivia was right. Anyways, yeah, 3D World, it's just like the middle of the road sort of game. The Fence Sitter, right? It's both 2D run to the flagpole game and a 3D collectathon exploration game. It can't quite decide what it wants to be from my point of view, but I almost love it for that. There's this one level with I don't even have the words, criminal open area that just makes you think, oh my god, I wish we had an analog camera here, and we never got one of those 3D Mario games on the Wii U. Fuck's sake, just give me something. Oh, hey, Super Mario Odyssey. Our final stop for the time being, Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes!
Oh my Christ, what more can be said? Odyssey is probably the closest we've ever gotten to an open world Mario game. But not in a Nintendo hire this man way, but in a cool way. You set down in a kingdom, get out of your flying hat ship and go explore for moons. Pick up a moon, sit back down, keep on going. It's so much fun. Keeping the game flowing like this as opposed to strictly defined levels, either in a Galaxy 3D World style or a 64 Sunshine way, is such a good fit for Mario. It's an amazing change. It makes environment exploration even more fun, especially considering how fucking awesome the controls are. Genuinely 21 years of 3D Mario experience built up to these controls, to the point where I'm genuinely worried that they might not be able to match it come the next 3D Mario game. The game isn't without flaw, of course, but oh my god, you have to nitpick for them. I guess New Donk City having realistic humans it's weird. There's too many moons, too much content. Nintendo, please take content away from me. I want a hard limit of 1 moon per kingdom to collect, please. So, after poorly recounting most mainline Mario games, Christ, it sounds lame when you put it like that. Has my opinion changed? Is 2D Mario better than 3D? No. And not to the fault nor shame of 2D Mario. 3D Mario is just going to be better. It's got the odds stacked in its favour. 3D games development naturally takes up more time, money and resources compared to 2D. I don't think it's unfair to say they're harder to make in general. So with Nintendo naturally diverting more of their resources into making 3D Mario as opposed to 2D, especially in the modern era, this was just never going to work out. And that doesn't mean 2D Mario is bad. Christ, listen to yourself. 2D Mario is amazing. It's timeless. It's never going to age. Mario was born from 2D, but that doesn't stop his 3D games from being more expansive adventures just because they make more money. The jury may be out on Super Mario Wonder, but yeah, I think people have to concede that while your own preference in dimensions matters here, 3D Mario is probably objectively better.
But does any of that matter? Turns out I forgot about Super Mario 3D Land, and this is probably the closest attempt I've seen to importing 2D Mario into 3D since Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U. Wait. And with Bowser's Fury, the side story mode in the 3D World remaster, I imagine the death of traditional 2D Mario is swiftly upon us. So this was a waste of everyone's time.